This is the refreshed 4th Gen Mazda 2, or Demio, as it is known in some markets. What's new, what's the same, and why? Before we go any further, today's episode was made in partnership with J&K Limited, expert in anti-theft devices. Later on, we'll see if I managed to steal this press car and how you can protect yourself from car thieves. Stay tuned! The current generation Mazda 2 debuted in 2014. Back in 2015, I reviewed a 115 1.5-liter petrol version. It was great to drive, but the ride was on the firm side and I couldn't make myself comfortable behind the wheel. Back then, Mazda reps talked about right sizing, meaning finding the right engine size for a given car, which was and still is against the downsizing trend. Therefore, we still get a 1.5-liter Skyactiv-G motor, but Mazda axed the 115 horsepower version, leaving us with 75 or 90 horsepower to choose from. The former may not be available in some markets, like in Poland, where we only get the 90 horsepower version. More about the engine later. Now let's talk about exterior changes. There's a new grille, new headlights, including optional matrix LEDs in higher trim levels, new lights in the back, and that's pretty much it. At first glance, Mazda 2 may look tiny, but it's exactly the same size as most superminis these days. It's even towards the larger end of the scale. It's 407 centimeters long, the wheelbase is 257 centimeters, and that's one of the best results in the class. It's just below 170 centimeters wide and 151.5 centimeters high. The boot volume has dropped. At least on paper, there is 30 liters less, 250 according to VDA. The pre-facelift model had 280, but that could have been internal calculation rather than VDA. There is still a high loading sill, still no shopping bag hooks or anchor points to secure luggage. Under the floor is a repair kit. There is no double floor, so with the back seats folded, there is a hump to get over. But now, regardless of the spec, the backrest splits 60-40. In the back, no changes. Average legroom and headroom. I recall going out for a weekend with my partner and another couple. We fit just fine, although I wouldn't mind grab handles instead of the coat hangers. Bottle holders in the doors would also be nice, not to mention a 12-volt socket or a USB charging port. In the front, at first glance, it's old news, but just because you can't see something, it doesn't mean it hasn't changed. Mazda has upgraded the seats so that they better support the body and reduce vibration, which in turn, wait for it, is supposed to make you see clearer outside. Mazda has paid a lot of attention to NVH, or noise, vibration and harshness, hence the thicker headliner and slightly retuned suspension. More about that later. Besides heated seats, the steering wheel is now also heated. In this segment, it's worth noting, and trust me, once you'll try it on a chilly day, you'll never want a car without it. There are cup holders, average size glove box, no armrest as standard, but it is an option. There are okay door bins, a place for a phone is a bit too small, especially since you're going to be plugging it in, not just for charging. Mazda left the old infotainment system, but with updated software, so now you can get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Sat-nav is optional, so skip it. Regardless of the trim, Mazda 2 gets keyless ignition, and on some trims, as an option, you can get keyless access. It's very convenient, and the key is very small. It just sort of disappears in your pocket or handbag. Unfortunately, we live in a world where some bad people want to relieve you of your property, and very often they succeed. Mazda 2 comes with an immobilizer as standard, but it's not particularly effective, as you will see now. The guys at J&K Limited have a demonstrator low-power device to show how your car can get stolen in a matter of seconds. So I don't have the key on me right now, just a receiver to which a signal is transmitted from another device, which intercepts the signal from my car key. I opened the door as if I had the key, and it only took me a bit longer to start the car because I didn't know where the key sensor was located. If I was a thief, I'd be gone with your car in less time than you need to go back into the house because you forgot to take your phone from the kitchen table. And this applies to basically any car, not just Mazda, as long as it has keyless access and ignition. So, how can you protect your car? One of the J&K Limited anti-theft solution is simply called the key lock. It's a microprocessor with a motion sensor which disconnects the battery from your key fob. You have to tap the key twice to resume the power supply. Installation is simple and it doesn't require any modification of your car or key software. You just open the key and you install it as if you were replacing the battery, and your car is protected. Key lock can work in one of two modes. Either you have to tap it twice to activate the key, or the key is active when you are moving. Depends on how you like to use it. I'm linking to the key lock in the video description. Check it out. The people behind the key lock help support this channel. To be fair, Mazda Poland knows how vulnerable their factory mobilizer is and offers no less than 7, albeit less elegant solutions, which makes starting the car a bit more difficult, but opening it wirelessly is still a piece of cake. In the pre-facelift version, I complained about the driving position and visibility. I think over the years, visibility in cars got so bad that Mazda 2 no longer seems particularly bad. You can also get a 360 camera, a real one, not a fake bird's-eye view like in PSA cars, so parking is much easier. So what about NVH? The other day I had to go on a business trip, some 600 kilometers in total. My back is very sensitive to bad car seats, but here I had no problems. Mazda 2 is not particularly quiet, but there is only one source of noise, and that's the engine. There is no annoying wind noise around the wing mirrors or the windows. Also, the suspension has been retuned for comfort. Before the facelift, Mazda 2 was a bit more sporty to drive, but that meant something only with the 115 horsepower engine. Without it, it's better to focus on comfort. Because the 90 horsepower motor may be efficient, but it's also gutless. And I'm not talking about the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time, which is now 4/10 of a second slower. That's almost 10 seconds. The engine just doesn't have any torque. Imagine you're behind a lorry on the motorway and you want to overtake, preferably without slowing down the traffic on the left lane. You have to downshift to second, not third, second. And from 80 to 120 kilometers per hour, it now takes almost 10 seconds. And that's if you can shift quickly from second to third. Mazda gave the less powerful engines a 6-speed manual transmission now for greater efficiency, but the gearing is too long. You can go over 100 kilometers per hour in second gear and around 160 in third, and then you shift into sixth, only to have the onboard computer tell you it would be better if you downshift to fifth or even fourth to maintain your motorway speed of 120, 130 kilometers per hour, and that's on a flat road, no inclines. On the plus side, I ended my motorway trip with 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's 43 US and 51 Imperial MPG. This is more or less on par with the WLTP result. In the press release, Mazda boasts that the new 1.5-liter Skyactiv-G engine with a manual gearbox is now a microhybrid, which is better for fuel economy and emissions. Mazda explains the engine R&D costs are reflected in the higher price of the car, but even if they did nothing, the price would still be higher because of fines for excess emissions. But don't worry, not everything was sunk in the engine that doesn't want to go. Mazda 2 now gets adaptive cruise control and active lane keeping assist system. In my opinion, it works better than in the Mazda 6 I reviewed a couple of years ago. In the 6, everything was very abrupt, and in the Mazda 2, it's much more fluid. And finally, I know that the system has seen the car in front, and I can react before it starts slowing me down. In the 6, the car would start braking before I turn on the indicator, and that was very annoying. Also, the active lane keeping assist here works smoothly, unlike in many other Japanese cars, and it's silent. The pre-facelift car made noises like old Nokia set to vibrate. Prices of the Mazda 2 start at €14,200 for a 75 horsepower model, €2,000 to get to the next trim level, and then only €500 for the 90 horsepower version. Another €3,000 or so to get the automatic. This top trim model with options costs about €23,000. This is slightly more expensive than a similarly spec'd Peugeot 208 or Renault Clio, albeit they come with turbocharged engines, which make them much more usable in everyday driving. Mazda 2 has seen a lot of incremental improvements, but its weak point is the engine. Yes, it's efficient, but instead of the microhybrid or beside it, it could use a turbo. And what do you think about the refreshed Mazda 2? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, subscribe and join me every Friday, or just click one of the links on the screen right now. Also, I started a new channel, it's called Marek's Gear, it's about the gear I use, so feel free to check it out and hopefully subscribe as well. See you next time.